Right, hello and welcome to the Father and Son Formula One podcast. I'm the father in question, Graham Miller, and this is my son, Toby.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about the Mexico Grand Prix. I was going to say Grand Prix weekend, but it actually was just a Grand Prix. It wasn't like a sprint weekend or anything.
Yeah. Normal.
Fairly normal.
The format was normal.
Yeah, it was quite an exciting race again. I think this whole triple header, I think we said it last time, this whole triple header is going to determine whether or not Norris has a shot at overturning Verstappen and getting the World Championship, because either he's going to be too far behind coming out of it, or he's going to be on course, as it were.
And the next race is going to be quite decisive as well.
Yeah. I mean, Brazil's always a good lap. Anyway, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah. I did actually watch all the free practices this time. I had the time to sit down.
I think I watched the daytime ones, but I didn't stay up till like midnight to watch them.
Was it midnight for the... I don't think it was midnight for the...
It was quite late.
Let me just check. I'm just looking at the schedule.
Yeah.
Formula One... Friday. No, first practice was... Oh, it's not in our time. I didn't think it was too bad. It was what's qualifying was at 10 p.m, not 11.
Oh yeah,
So
I remember now. Because like free practice one, it was like the McLarens were all over it.
Yeah.
But Verstappen had engine problems, didn't he?
Yes, in FP2?
Yeah. What made me really laugh was they actually came out and said when he changed his engine. So he had problems in FP1 already, and they changed his engine for another one that he'd already used. But the problem with the first one was a leak from the inlet manifold.
Right.
Which I found funny because I've had that on cars I've owned, and they're an absolute pig to diagnose.
Right. Yeah.
And actually, I can imagine what it means and how I'd fix it if it was my car, which is kind of quite funny, really, when you're talking about the highly rarefied world of Formula One, and something like that happens, and you're like, oh yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, I mean, they are still cars. They still have just about internal combustion engines.
Yeah, it's still got fuel and air mixing and going in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what the inlet manifold does. It takes the fuel-air mixture and puts it into the engine. And if there's even the tiniest of leaks, because they're sucking it in quite hard, it'll suck extra air in, and then it'll run what's called lean with too much air, not enough fuel.
Yeah.
And it'll just
in an
be
F1 car,
horrible.
the pressure's probably going to be much higher.
Well, they're turboed for a start, so it's forcing the air in.
Yeah, and if it leaks, it's just it's gonna be kind of strangled, especially when there's not much air up there anyway.
Oh yeah, it's going to be really bad. Anyway.
But I imagine they probably fixed it quite a lot faster than you could on, with your garage.
I don't know, they're quite easy. Just ping the inlet manifold off, clean it up, new gasket, pop it back together.
Yeah, but like you consider an F1 garage and all the tools they've got. In there, they're not going to be wandering around looking for sockets or screwdrivers.
No, but on the other hand, they're much more tightly packaged and they've got turbos.
Yeah, it's probably like quite a long procedure. They've got to get those covers.
I think they just actually whipped the whole engine out and put another one in. So
that's actually easier in an F1 car than...
There's a lot of cars that were like that, to be honest. Just pull the engine.
Yeah. Anyway,
FP1,
you know what FP1 was also many young new drivers.
Yeah, you know what I realised?
Yes.
In FP1, of the 20 guys on track, 13 of them were there at the beginning.
So, we've got Behrman, Schwartzman and Drugovich at the bottom.
Yep.
Patricio O'Ward.
Yep.
Which is quite a tough name to say, actually. For the McLaren, he's an IndyCar driver. Antonelli, Colapinto wasn't. Lawson wasn't.
Yeah.
So I got 6.
I think there were 5 new drivers. No, there's Drugovich, O'Ward, Antonelli.
It's 3.
Oh, my brain is just not with
I've
it.
got the results up. I can read them out. I've got Behrman, Schwartzman, Drogovic,
Yeah.
O'Ward,
Antonelli.
and Antonelli. They were the subs.
Yeah. And then you've got Colapinto and Lawson who weren't there either.
Right. So that's 7.
But yeah, out of like a field of 20.
Which I think is making up for that. What year was it? 2022 to 2023?
No, it was this year.
23 to 24.
Yeah, everybody who started this season were the same guys in the same teams who finished last season.
Yeah, even though last year there were some subs with De Vries and Ricardo, etc.
Yeah.
This year, going from Abu Dhabi 23 to Bahrain 24, the grid was identical. But now we've had 23 drivers throughout the whole season, actually full-time driving, competing in races. Probably about like almost 30 drivers doing free practices.
Yeah.
Because there've been others who weren't in this one.
Yeah, it's quite... But I mean, yeah, it looked like it was going to be business as usual, really, with... Also, that meant FP2 was an hour and a half long because Pirelli were testing the 2025 tyre compounds, so...
Yes.
FP2 was a bit weird because they couldn't actually run their own programs. They were being told what to do. But those 5 cars that were taken out by substitute drivers were given an extra half hour.
Where they could run their own programs.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they'd only have had one free practice session.
Yeah.
Like Hamilton, basically.
Yeah, I think the deal was that it was an hour and a half and 15 of the drivers were doing an hour of Pirelli testing and half an hour of their own program. And the other 5 drivers were doing it the other way around. They were doing an hour of free practice. Plus a bit of Pirelli work, I think, something like that.
And it's so FP2 Verstappen didn't go out at all. He says he's got 4 laps on, but there's no time on the board. And obviously Russell had that crash as well.
Oh yeah, have you heard the news from McLaren?
Mercedes,
maybe? Not McLaren, Mercedes. Oh.
Yeah. At least it's not the Alpha situation we had last year.
No. But Mercedes, Toto Wolff, has said he's basically given up on this year.
Yeah.
They've had so many crashes with Russell mainly.
Oh.
And Russell's had at least one new chassis and he's wrecked upgraded floors. He said these next 4 weekends are testing weekends for next year. And I'm actually looking at the constructors. They're going to be 4th in the championship. It's pretty much locked in.
Yeah.
I can't see Aston Martin gaining another 280 points over them.
I don't know if there are 280 points for them to get, to be honest.
No, they're probably not.
What's a
no? Because there's 100.
What can a team get?
Well, there's 120 for drivers, so they won't be able to get 240.
No, definitely not. Even with sprints, so
they need about, my brain isn't really working, 150 odd to catch Red Bull.
Mercedes, So it's not.
They are going to be 4th in the constructors. It's pretty much locked in.
Yeah, I mean.
And they're 6th and 7th in the drivers, and again, unless there's an earthquake or something.
Yeah, so they're on. I mean, Perez is technically close to Russell and Hamilton. He's only about 39 points off Hamilton, which is doable. Yeah. But then he's another, 50 points behind Sainz. And given the pace of the Ferrari at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty much, they're going to get 6th and 7th in the drivers, maybe 6th and 8th if Sergio pulls his finger out, but I don't think anybody's expecting that.
Yeah.
They're going to get 4th in the constructors. He said they're banging into the cost cap already because they keep building new floors and building new chassis.
Yeah.
So Toto Wolff has actually gone, there's 4 test weekends before we start 2025 because we need to develop next year's car.
And what I thought was interesting was that in the race, Hamilton and Russell ended up right next to each other. Kind of in that no man's land, 5th and 6th sort of battle, I think.
Yeah.
And basically, 4th and 5th it was, the the commentator said Russell was running basically Miami spec car,
Yeah.
and Hamilton was running the Austin spec car.
Actually, I heard he was running a Silverstone car.
Who?
Russell.
Well, point is, an old car.
Yeah.
And they were basically inseparable. Like, they were so close. Like, Hamilton was running more downforce, so he kept up through the corners and then lost him on the straights. And he kind of, if I was Toto Wolff, I'd be thinking, what has all the work been for?
Yeah,
The cars are not actually the same.
I think it wasn't the whole car. I think it was the floor.
Right. So it was, yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's like what we've been doing for the last 3 months.
I mean, if Hamilton was running an Austin spec car and it was like 2 seconds a lap faster than Russell's, you think, okay, we've made progress. But if they how far apart did they actually finish?
Oh, they were fighting tooth and nail.
I mean, yeah, they must have...
Wheel-to-wheel fighting all the way through the race.
Mexico. The results, they were 4 seconds apart.
Yeah.
Which is like across a whole race, but also across an entire season. It's like, what have they done?
Well, I think what they've done is they've understood the car.
Just about.
But yeah, I mean, they've got the 4th fastest car on the grid.
Yeah.
And it shows. And so Toto's just gone, that's where we are.
That's fair.
And actually, if they absolutely banged against the cost cap, pulled some long all-nighters, threw loads of new parts at it, tested them in the wind tunnel and the simulators,
they'd be 4th.
Yeah, it would make no difference. So
I'd feel a bit kind of miffed maybe if I was Hamilton, because why would I have to do the testing weekends for a team I'm not going to race for next year?
On the other hand, what else could he achieve?
Well, if Toto's given up and he's going to have me on loads of weird configurations and setups, I'm not going to win any races.
But they've got the 4th fastest car anyway. I mean, you know what Hamilton...
Yeah, I mean, it takes a Norris-Verstappen crash and some bad Ferrari strategy to start sniffing at the podium again, doesn't it?
Pretty much.
I mean, there's always Russell in Austria. That must have been a big, like, well, you've always got to be there.
Yeah, you've got to be there and you've got to finish the race. So, I mean, I don't think they're going to stop pushing altogether.
No.
But I think also that in terms of bringing in upgrades, I think that, they've chosen where they are and that's that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fair enough, really. That was it. FP3 was where it really kind of shook out. When they'd done all the testing.
Yeah,
they got used to the surface and the tyres. You've got Piastri and Norris at the top, barely separated by anything.
And then Sainz and Verstappen.
And then, actually, Lewis Hamilton, he's really getting some performance out of it there. And then Leclerc, and then Tsunoda, and then Russell. It has to be said, and I don't like being mean to people, but Perez had an awful weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, free practice 3, 14th.
But that was good compared to qualifying.
It was, yeah.
He was 9th in FP2.
I was just looking for that, thank you.
And in FP1, did he give up his car to anybody? No, he was just 10th. But he was slower than Lawson in a RB.
Yeah, and slower than Bottas and Ocon.
I mean, being slower than Bottas is quite an achievement because that Sauber is an absolute tractor.
Yeah.
But in qualifying, he was 18th on pure pace.
Yeah.
No crashes, no red flags, no issues, just the second slowest driver on the grid.
But then Piastri was 17th.
Yeah, which is also about his worst qualifying, I think, ever.
I think up till then, Piastri and Verstappen were the only two to get through to Q3 every race this season.
Yeah. And now it's just Verstappen, which kind of goes to show why he's still leading the championship, even though the car has not been that great in the second half.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that was the story of this weekend as well. I think in terms of pure pace, you probably couldn't get a cigarette paper between the Ferraris and the McLarens. Maybe the McLarens were a bit ahead.
Yeah.
I think the Red Bull was a definite third, And I think Mercedes was a strong fourth, and then you've got the midfield battle, where it appears Haas are winning, I'm going to say.
Yeah, they've really picked up, actually. And I've seen that a lot of people in Haas apparently are very happy with their new team principal, Ayo Komatsu. Because apparently he's realistic. Because he comes into every race weekend saying, we're going to aim for points. We would like to score some points, but we've had a tough couple of years, and they're actually turning it around.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. There's no point in having a team principal walk into Haas and go, right, guys, we're going for the win.
Yeah.
Because,
it's not going to happen. I mean, they got that pole position in Brazil last year, but it didn't last long.
No. But, double points finish, which I think they've achieved the last few races.
Where are they on my list?
I think Austin, they definitely did.
Austin was 8th and 11th, but then it was 8th and 7th in the sprint. Hulkenberg scored points in the last 4 races in a row.
Yeah.
And Magnussen's been up there. Actually, the last... Is that 5 races? There's only been 1 race where neither of them scored points.
And you consider they're now ahead of RB, which is basically a kind of Red Bull Works team. They're not short on resources or...
No, but I don't know why their pace would be so kind of slow then, to be honest.
What, RB?
Yeah. And given that Lawson's been scoring points, and Tsunoda's been generally pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, they're only 10 points ahead.
That same period that Haas have been scoring points, Tsunoda hasn't.
Yeah.
So that's why it swung, I think. But yeah, P6 is good for Haas, given that they have been last in the past.
Yeah. Aston Martin did what they did the last couple of seasons. They started off podiums and really challenging, and then just didn't bring the updates through.
I don't even think they were really in the podium positions this year. Got a 5th and a 6th from Alonso, and then just really poor pace at times as well.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the problem is, and I'm wondering if Lawrence Stroll isn't just hiring Adrian Newey because he can, and he's kind of hoping that Newey will be the golden goose that solves all the problems, but there might be deeper problems.
So I don't think Newey would have gone for that if that was the case. I think Newey was attracted by the fact that they've got really good facilities. They've got a really good team of people around there. He's not just going to be the only superstar.
Yeah.
And I think, because I'm not being funny, but he is approaching retirement age. He doesn't need the money.
Yeah.
What's that?
He kind of is retirement age.
Yeah. He doesn't need the money, so he'll want a project where he'll think, I can make a difference. I can get this team to the top.
Yeah.
And relatively quickly. And I mean, to be fair, I think, was it 23 or 22 where they were literally, first few races, they were fighting for podiums?
I think it was 23.
Yeah,
I think so. Sort of, Red Bull would win every race. And then you'd be fighting over Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes and Aston. Every race they would be sort of swapping who's going to be the second fastest team this time.
Yeah, the first race they had a third and a 6th.
Yeah, and Stroll came 4th, Alonso came 2nd a couple times, and then kind of trailed off halfway through.
But you put somebody like Newey in there, and then when the upgrades come through, they'll actually work.
Yeah. So that will be interesting to see how that works.
And it'll be interesting to see if Stroll survives as well.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I don't know if what's his face. If Lawrence Stroll's dream is to be a world champion, right?
Yep.
For Aston Martin to be the world champion,
yep.
Is that going to be possible with Stroll there? And he kind of has to make that choice.
Yeah.
Because Stroll's now behind Hulkenberg in the championship.
Yeah. And I think he's probably going to sit down with his son and say, "Are you?" Well, I don't know. He does seem really happy in F1 though. That's the problem. Whether he'd want to then be shuffled off into World Endurance cars or Indy or NASCAR or...
I'm thinking maybe his plan is to stick it out until Alonso retires and then get an actual superstar in to replace Alonso. I mean, who
Yeah.
else is up? I mean, maybe Sainz could be available.
Sainz has got a
Verstappen might be.
long-term-
I think he's spoken about getting Verstappen. Everybody wants a piece of Verstappen.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a whole number of young drivers in the wings that they could go for.
Yeah. Anyway, we've really rambled off topic, haven't we?
Yeah, because we never do that.
Yeah, so Q1 we lost Colapinto, which is actually a bit surprising because he's...
Yeah, both Williams I thought was a bit... Was it both Williams? Where was Albon?
No, Albon went through.
I might be thinking of last weekend.
Albon went all the way through to Q3.
But yeah.
But then Ocon, again, the Alpines aren't great. Zhou, the Saubers aren't great. And then Oscar Piastri and Sergio Perez.
Well, I don't know, actually. You say the Alpines aren't great, but Gasly was 8th. Albon was 9th. There is quite a big teammate difference this time round. I mean, Alonso and Stroll were next to each other, but Bottas actually got into Q2 for the first time in a while.
Yeah. Well, they're actually very slowly making progress. Whether it'll be enough for points before the end of the season is anybody's guess, really.
Yeah, stay car completely pointless now.
Sounds harsh, but...
Well, I mean... Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing is, like you say, although it's possibly a bit unfair, if there's a fairly major pile-up involving a lot of the top 7 or 8, depending on how Perez is feeling. I mean, Bottas was 14th. That could easily become 9th or 10th if there's a wet race or absolute chaos or...
Well, 14th was his best result for a while, to be fair.
Yeah. Zhou was 15th, so...
It's not bad.
It would take, like, crashes or rain or safety cars or a combination of all three.
Yeah, but they were kind of getting mixed up a little bit in the actual fighting.
Yeah.
And not just... I mean, both stakes were ahead of Perez at the end of the race, which is just mind-blowing in a way.
Yeah, again, the rumours are swirling around Perez because that really was an awful weekend.
I mean, he's actually been point scoring for the last few.
Yeah.
That was quite dismal.
And it was a home GP as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like... I think he actually finished last.
And anyway, let's do the qualifying first. So Q2, we lost Bottas, Stroll, Alonso, Lawson and Tsunoda, which again is no really big surprise.
Yeah, very standard. But both Haas is through to Q3 again.
Given that there were now 4 slots available for the second tier midfield teams, so we've got
Williams,
2 Haases,
Williams,
Gasly and Albon.
But they were... Let me actually see. Did Ferrari get both of them up there?
Yeah.
Oh god, Sainz was on pole. I couldn't see him for a sec.
Yeah, Sainz had a pole position, and
so it was both Ferraris, both Mercedes, both Haas, which means Ferrari power were actually up there.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's a very high circuit with not much air. So
yeah, maybe that's just where their cars work better.
Although I've read about them, apparently since Monza they've been quite happy because they kind of thought, when I think Leclerc won in Monza, didn't he?
Yeah.
They thought, oh, we've got the car sorted for like big, wide, fast racetracks like Monza. But then everywhere they go, like Singapore is a completely different beast. Mexico and Austin are completely different types of tracks. They've all got their own particular challenges, and it just seems the Ferrari works everywhere.
Yeah, Austin was not... It's still quite high speed, and so is Mexico. Brazil will be interesting because it is quite twisty.
Yeah, I think Mexico has some quite tight corners as well, so...
It does. It has that kind of S's section in the stadium. It's a pretty balanced track.
But yeah, Ferrari are very happy at the moment. I think Max's front row slot in second place was, to be honest, Max's genius of just absolutely ragging every possible scrap of performance out of the car.
Yeah.
I think Norris said the reason he was third and he didn't appear to improve was in Q1 he pretty much found the limit.
I'm looking at his times. He did a 1:16.5 in Q1 and then a 0.3 and then a 0.2, so I'm not sure I'd totally agree with him, but...
Yeah, but you look at
he gained
Sainz.
3/10 of Verstappen.
Look at Sainz, he went 16.7, 16.5 15.9.
Yeah, he didn't gain as much as others around him.
And he said it looked disappointing, but actually he pretty soon found where the limit was. And Verstappen went 16.8, 16.5, 16.1, so he found 7/10.
Well, Norris was fastest in Q1 and Q2, I think, looking at this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said. It looked like it was disappointing because he was fastest in Q1 and Q2 and then third in Q3. But actually he just found the limit and kept doing it.
Mm. But also, yeah, I mean, Ferrari pole is kind of, exciting and out of nowhere almost.
And also he's a Spanish speaker, which, they absolutely loved. I mean, I heard the crowd all the way through the weekend whenever he spoke to them in Spanish. It was...
Yeah, I mean, given that they couldn't really cheer for Perez that much.
No.
But yeah. Someone start from the pit lane. I think Ocon? Yeah.
Yeah, Ocon.
New engine for some reason. The Alpine's just been unreliable.
Apparently, I just saw a headline. I haven't dug into it yet. Alpine and somebody else are facing investigation for breaching the engine cost caps.
Yeah, Honda. So they will both pay a fine. They were in procedural breach of the power unit financial regulations. The FIA made clear that neither party had acted in bad faith, dishonesty, or in a fraudulent manner.
Does that mean they put a number in the wrong column on the spreadsheet?
Yeah, they didn't. That procedural breach is just filling out the paperwork wrong.
Yeah.
So Alpine have accepted the breach and are paying $400,000.
That's going to be another nail in the coffin of their engine program, isn't it?
Yeah, and then Honda, they breached Articles 8.1 and 8.2e.
Oh, I know those, yeah.
Failure to file accurate reporting. This is really dry stuff. $600,000 for them.
Okay, I remember I spoke to you before, or probably WhatsApp, knowing us, before the actual race, and we both commented what made the race really interesting was that there were two Ferrari teammates who could help with strategy, two Mercedes teammates, but both Norris and Verstappen had kind of lost their rear gunners.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, Verstappen's been racing without support from Perez for most of the season.
But I did think, if ever Norris needed a driver to get in Verstappen's way and hold him up with that penalty, it was this race, and he just wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wondered if they were going to leave him out to block him and slow him down, but he probably would have just been picked off in seconds.
Yeah, because his tyres would have been old. So, in the race itself, the first thing to note is that Yuki Tsunoda had actually no fault of his own.
Or Albon's, really.
He came together with Albon, and I think, was it Gasly or Ocon on the outside?
I don't remember. It was an Alpine.
Yeah, who was nearest on?
Just got completely squeezed.
It was just not enough room. I think he ripped the tyre off Albon's car and then just went diagonally into the barriers.
Yeah, someone's tyre did fly off. Let's have a look.
It was probably Gasly.
Yeah, because actually Tsunoda must have got past Hülkenberg initially to get up with Albon.
Yeah, I think he was having a flying start, and that's probably what caused it, to be honest.
Because he ended up on the left, Albon was in the middle. And we've seen it a million times. The two cars on either side of Albon just kind of squished together and he had nowhere to go.
No.
And so Tsunoda was out.
We had an 8-9 lap safety car.
Yeah, and like the commentator said, we went 8 races with no safety car. And then, they said like a London bus, two came along at the same time.
Yeah.
One after the other.
And then all hell broke loose, to be honest.
So Verstappen got past Sainz on the start.
Yeah, did you see the really neat trick that Norris did?
No.
Because, where's the starting grid? Norris was third, right behind Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
And Verstappen got away. That's right, Verstappen was on the right ahead of Norris. And as he was drawing alongside Sainz and starting to come ahead, and it looked fairly clear he'd get into the corner first.
Yeah.
You see Norris watching all this and thinking, uh-oh, I'm on the wrong track. And he just literally slotted across, dropped Sainz's slipstream and got into Verstappen's slipstream. If you actually watch the highlights or the start again, you can see there's a moment where he goes, If that's Verstappen going ahead of Sainz, why am I following Sainz for the slipstream effect?
Yeah, and again,
And
it's
he just
that,
went,
like, ultimately Norris doesn't care that much about Sainz. He cares about where Max is and finishing ahead of him.
well, also, if Max is about to take the lead of the race, he wants to be tucked up in his slipstream, not suddenly demoted to,
Yeah, and also
staying in third.
he can take the inside that Max takes and kind of
Yeah.
slip past him. I'm just watching the highlights.
You see what I mean on that start? It was quite a neat move from Norris.
Yeah, so he's kind of behind.
Sainz. And then there's a moment in the start.
Comes across. I think he comes across to try and overtake Sainz, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, he's like, if Verstappen's getting past Sainz, I'll let Verstappen drag me past as well.
And then there goes Tsunoda. And then Sainz cuts the grass. And while the flags are out, the yellow flags, not the safety car,
Yeah.
Sainz actually yields to Verstappen. He gives him the place because he cut the corner.
Yeah. And then we have the safety car.
Yeah.
And then there was that absolutely epic Sainz got the lead back off Verstappen.
Humongous dive bomb. I think it was one lap after the restart.
Yeah.
They did the restart. Verstappen kept it because he's quite good at restarts. And then that lap, Sainz just gained up to the back of him and got a better exit and then just dive bombed him.
Now, there's two ways you could look at this.
Yes.
Either Sainz has got better racecraft than Norris and had a bit more power and got straight past Verstappen. Or Verstappen doesn't care that much about the win and about Ferrari. He actually said he wasn't in a very fast car all weekend. So it might have been Verstappen's tactical brain going, there's no point fighting this, I want to keep Norris behind me.
I mean, he didn't even defend the inside, Verstappen, although then you get the switchback.
Yeah.
And then another's... He was fighting it. But yeah, he didn't sort of jank or do any big dramatic moves like he probably would have done if it had been not... Well, like he did when it was Norris, yeah.
Yeah, because on lap 10...
What does Norris do? Turn 1, so he comes down.
Goes around the outside.
And then... I mean, some might say that actually that was because Sainz was in Verstappen's way, so he had to back out. But instead of backing out, he cuts across behind Sainz and into Norris, basically.
Yeah.
Norris cuts the corner and he gets ahead of Verstappen.
Yep.
And then... So Verstappen got 10-second penalty for that, for pushing him off the track.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough because Norris is turning left and then there's a wheel there. He has to turn right to get out of it.
And also Norris learned from last week, so he just came off the brakes and rolled into the corner to make sure he kept his nose ahead all the way through the corner.
Yes, he did.
Rather than doing the sensible thing and going, I'm not going to make this, and backing out and letting Verstappen get to the apex first.
Yeah, he very specifically made sure he was ahead of the apex.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't overtake Sainz off the track. He lets Sainz go again. He's ahead, and then he backs off, and then he goes once Sainz is passed, because he doesn't want to get overtaking off-track penalties.
Yeah.
Then, going into turn 8...
Yeah, the turn 7-8, which even people like Helmut Marko have said was outrageous.
I mean, the camera angle... Both cars are behind a barrier, so you can't actually see them, which means that they're both massively off track.
Yeah.
And it was almost like... Again, the picture at the apex was that Verstappen's car was pointed away from the track, basically, towards Norris.
Yeah.
And it was like almost like he was using his car as a weapon, to be honest.
And I'll tell you what scares me and most people who watched it most about that manoeuvre. You look at the end of it, where they're rejoining the track. How close is that barrier to Norris's front right wheel?
Let me see, I've got it on my phone.
Because that was actually legitimately terrifying, I think.
Yeah, but at that point Verstappen was ahead. And then again, there's Leclerc. Again, I actually said, again on the WhatsApp, I can see Max conceding to Leclerc to stay ahead of Lando again.
Yeah.
And that actually, I thought it would be at the start, but it was lap 10. That exactly happened.
But I mean, my point is when that second turn 7-8 scrap that they had, he very nearly runs Lando almost end on into a barrier.
Yeah.
I think that's what people were upset about, partly that it was an outrageous move where he had no justification, but also he literally could have, well, not killed him because the safety's very good, but he could have really done.
Well, he could have, made him have a really big crash. And then at that point, it's not really like the Hamilton Verstappen crash from 21 at Britain, where it was like he went to the hospital, but was it really his fault?
Yeah.
If that crash had had Lando in the hospital, you could almost have McLaren suing Red Bull for, like, workplace assault, basically.
Yeah.
Or, like, attempted murder, even, because it was 100% unequivocally his fault. And if it had gone worse, Lando could have been, like, injured, basically.
Well, I mean, don't forget a broken hand, which is, in racing terms, a fairly minor injury.
I mean, if you had that...
That put Ricciardo out for 5 races. So something, as minor as that happened, that's it. The championship's over.
Yeah, but also it's a broken hand. It's like...
Yeah.
Physically, it's... And I think that's why... Because the stewards evaluated them both almost at the same time. Because they did the... what's the word? They did the turn 4 crash, and then almost immediately afterwards... Like, when they evaluated the turn 4 crash, the turn 8 thing had happened already.
Yeah.
So they weren't saying... It probably would have been 5 seconds for the turn 4. But because it was that turn 8 thing, they basically said, we'll give you 20 overall.
Well, no, because the standard penalty for that kind of behaviour is a 10-second penalty.
Yeah.
The only reason... in Austin that it was a 5-second penalty is because they recognised that Max went off track as well doing it.
Right.
And that's why they also didn't give Lando another strike on his track limits, because they recognised actually there was nowhere else Lando could go.
It was a difficult, complicated thing, but I think
that second one is just... I'm just actually watching it now. If you look when they come off the track... They're so close to that barrier, and obviously, you can actually see the corner of the barrier there, and it's... But Max picked up 2 10-second penalties, and I mean 10 seconds is the standard one.
I think beyond that you end up in
Black flags
penalty.
Or,
Technically... There's nothing in the regulations that points directly to an automatic black flag. They haven't done it in a very, very long time. I think they don't like to do it at all.
No, I mean, people are also talking about, I'm going to say Jerez at 97, where Schumacher actually got disqualified for the whole championship.
Yeah.
If you go back to the highlights and pause it at 2 minutes 8 seconds, you'll see what I mean.
Let me see. I'm just looking at stuff. Yeah. So there he goes.
That was the big news, and Max picked up 2 20-second penalties to be served at the next pit stop.
Yeah.
Now, what I find interesting, if you watch the replays carefully, is what Max said coming out of the race, when everybody calmed down. He said, I reckon if I hadn't had those penalties, I would have finished in front of the Mercedes.
Yes.
So his car was a bit ropey. He had no pace to match the Ferraris or the McLaren.
Yeah.
So we can say... reasonably, instead of an 8-point finish, he would have got a 12-point finish.
Yeah.
But I also think if you watch those opening few laps, Norris lost out massively to Carlos Sainz because of what Verstappen was doing.
Yeah, and Leclerc, of course, because he got past them both.
Yeah, and actually he had to fight with Leclerc a lot to get past Leclerc in the closing stages to get second.
Well, at the end of the race, he was only 5 seconds off Sainz.
So if you look at it...
probably lost about that fighting Verstappen, probably more.
Well, going off track and stuff, and also he wasn't really allowed to get past Sainz by going off track, so...
Yeah.
So actually, that strategy worked out in Max's favour.
Yes.
He lost 10 points, but it could have easily, if he'd raced clean, it's kind of conceivable he would have got 12 points and Lando would have got 25.
Yeah.
So he's actually saved himself 3 points in the championship fight by doing that.
Because the thing is, with Verstappen,
Ooh.
even if he DNFs, he can still win the championship. What is it, a 47-point gap?
It is now, yeah.
So there's 4 full races left.
120 points, I think they said.
It's certainly doable, but if he can he just needs to slow Norris down. That's all he needs to do. Because if Norris starts winning, that gap between first and second is so big that it does actually put Verstappen into some peril.
And also, if there is an accident and neither of them finish, or neither of them finish in the points, it's massively in Max's favour, so he can be reckless.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're kind of getting a bit ahead. The whole race, Piastri drove a fairly good recovery drive up to 8th. I mean, last time out we watched George Russell come out of the pit lane and get 6th, so it's not a stellar drive really, considering that car was good enough for first or second.
Yeah, I mean, it seems as though Piastri is really good on the tracks where F2 races, and not really anywhere else. I mean, if you look at Piastri's best results, where is he on my spreadsheet? He came second at Monaco. He came second in Austria. He won in Hungary, Belgium, Baku, Monza. I'm pretty sure those are all races where F2 races. And then we had Mexico. They don't race there.
So you think it takes him a while, like 2 or 3 years, to learn a track?
Maybe, yeah. Because this is his second year now.
Yeah.
And again, I had second in Qatar. I don't know if they race in Qatar last year. I don't know.
No.
That's just it. Probably isn't that definitive, but that's just an observation.
No. Alonso had his 400th. Oh god, the commentators were discussing this.
Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, because he had a couple of did not starts. I think 2.
Yes, but if you drive a car during a timed session of a weekend, you are an entrant, I think.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
a start is a different thing. Yeah,
I mean, to be honest, he's turned up to 400 Grand Prix weekends. He's put his overalls and his helmet on, and he's got in a car 400 times.
More than anyone in history, obviously.
Yeah. Massively. But unfortunately, he retired due to overheating brakes.
Yeah.
Which wasn't spectacular.
It's quite about as anticlimactic as it gets, because it wasn't even a crash or anything.
No.
It wasn't even a stop on the track. It didn't influence the race at all. It was just, It was just, oh, sorry, you got to stop now.
On the other hand, that's racing, isn't it? You can't
control
have
those
400
things.
weekends and every one is like film worthy. It just happens.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at things. Perez got in a scrap fairly early on, I think, with Liam Lawson, like wheel to wheel for several corners.
Yeah.
He was quite annoyed because Lawson just smacked into the side of him and chewed up the floor edge. And there's side pod damage.
And then on the straight, when he overtook him later, Lawson flipped him the bird, which was quite funny.
Oh, I missed that. That's funny.
Also kind of borderline suicidal at Mexico City Grand Prix.
Oh, yeah, they said they hope he's going to, like, wear a hood and just sneak out.
I think he has actually, like, formally apologised.
But yeah, you got to the whole bringing the sport into disrepute things.
Yeah, but...
But yeah, those 2 cars finished, last 2 runners, 16th and 17th. And actually, you're right, the 2 Saubers were 14th and 15th. So, they finished a race.
I've got them 13th, 15th. Oh, no, yeah, that's Ocon, sorry, yeah. They finished, and they got slightly... They weren't last.
They were ahead of 2 Red Bull-powered cars.
Yeah, I get that could just be Ferrari power.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seeming to like it. Ocon, Colapinto, Stroll. Yeah, I mean, it was all fairly...
Colapinto got onto Perez a bit as well, I think.
Gasly actually got some points.
Well, and point.
Actually,
Magnussen.
Alpine have got a chance of closing up to Williams in the constructors. They're fighting over
Yeah.
8th and 9th.
They've improved a bit over the years, over the races of this year.
RB are fighting with Haas, but Haas are winning that battle. They're 10 points ahead, and given they're fighting for the fairly low points,
Yeah.
it's going to be worth watching, definitely. But they got another 8 this time, so they're definitely pulling away, keeping that 6th place, which, like you said earlier, would be really good for the team, and it'll probably give them a lot more funding, won't it?
Yeah. And then
Yeah, the two Mercedes had a fight of their own for 4th and 5th.
it was quite fun actually, and it was very hard, but it was very clean.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit heart in mouth given everything that's happened. Partly because I didn't want them to wipe each other out and gift another 4 points to Verstappen.
Yeah, that would have really neutralised the penalty almost completely.
Yeah, but yeah, they fought really, really well, really, really hard. I think Hamilton came out on top. Did he qualify in front? I think he did.
Let me see. He did come out ahead
Oh no, qualified behind.
by 0.3, and then he was ahead by 4 seconds. So yeah, just a pit stop strategy thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it also cracks me up that I see a lot of, as I keep saying every week, trash on Facebook of these like kind of quite dodgy F1 sites.
Clickbaity stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and the comments on them are quite often anti-Hamilton and about how he's getting owned by everybody. But actually, if you look at his teammate, given the car has been so bad, he's actually 12 points ahead at this stage, and with 2 wins to 1. So
He's holding his own. They're quite evenly matched, which I think speaks more to Russell than it does to Hamilton.
yeah,
And last year, Hamilton was way ahead of him. I mean, he had How did Hamilton get third in the championship last year?
because he's Hamilton.
Also last year, somehow, Sainz, Norris, Leclerc and Alonso were 6 points separated. It's just that.
Yeah,
It's just that 290 point gap between first and second.
yeah.
Man, that was a boring year.
So yeah, Sainz won the race. Did a lovely interview. Last question in Spanish. People actually loved him because they, like you say, couldn't really cheer for Perez.
That's the first time in Sainz's career he's won more than one race in a season.
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird that there's nowhere for him to go but Williams because he's a very good driver.
Yeah. This is also the first season since 1981. I'll just quickly check that there have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 multiple winners in the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, in some ways it's been very open, and in other ways that's what's really played into Max Verstappen's hands, because he's won 7. And between them I think there's been 12 wins by the other 12 wins spread between 4 people.
1, 2,
5
3,
people.
4, 5, 6 people because of Russell.
Oh yeah, wait, 6.
Everyone from
13
first
wins. 13
to
wins between 6. So if one person had, mopped up the majority of them, we'd be in a 2021 situation.
If Norris had won a few more.
Well, like if McLaren was structured like Red Bull, they'd have 5 race wins now on one driver.
And that's another 2 race wins. That's 50 points. That's actually the gap.
Yeah. It would actually be properly nail-biting.
Although we don't know those race wins. Where was Norris? He was like 2nd or 3rd. So it's a bit...
It would be another 14 to 20 points probably. It would still be a lot more exciting.
Yes. Still, yeah, but yeah.
That's
kind of why Verstappen has been winning, because he's been consistent. He hasn't actually finished below 6th since his last victory.
No, he's been consistent and he's got the team behind him. Once again, the rumours are swirling around. Actually, I was going to say they're swirling around Perez, but they're not rumours anymore because somebody said to Christian Horner, "What's the deal with Perez? Is he going to see out the season?"
Yeah.
Horner said, "Well, you'll see him in a Red Bull in Brazil, and then we'll see."
Yeah.
Which is a if you were Perez, I'd be like, uh-oh.
If I was Perez, I'd have been going uh-oh for the last year, to be honest.
Yeah, but every other time, Christian Horner's said, no, he's got a contract at the end of 2025, we'll honour it. You know, we understand he's got problems, we're working with him, we're trying to identify the issues. And this time he's just gone, yeah, he's definitely going to be there in Brazil.
Yes. Probably because, if I check the schedule, obviously Brazil is in, 3 days as we record this.
Yeah.
Then there's another, is that a 2-week break? Or is that actually a 3-week break? Until Vegas. So the 3rd.
Where are we?
Is that date might be wrong, because that says the 21st to the 23rd, but that's on a Saturday, not a Sunday. Oh no, it's the 24th. It just, on the F1 website, it says round 22, 21 to 23rd of November, but then the race is on the 24th, which is the Sunday.
Yeah, so it's a 3-week gap.
So that might be enough time to make a choice, bump up, I don't know, Lawson or Sonoda, or get Ricciardo back in for all I know.
Yeah, I think it's down to Max as well. I don't think Max would want Ricciardo in the other seat.
Yeah, he might not want Sonoda or Lawson, actually, because they've both been quite punchy.
Yeah, I think Lawson's probably the most likely, because he's most likely to be cowed.
Hmm.
You know, you can hold a big stick over Lawson's head and say, do what you're told. You've only got 3 races. Do what you're told, or we'll just, run you out the sport.
Yeah, you've got 3 races. If you do what you... Well, 4 races. Yeah, after Brazil, 3 races. If you do what we're told... If you do what you're told, you might get next year's seat.
Yeah.
And at this point, Red Bull are 3rd in the Constructors. So if they want to actually save Max's Drivers' Championship, they might need someone punchy like Lawson to, also get in the way of Norris.
Yeah.
And to maybe support Verstappen's strategies a bit more.
Yeah, if you click... Oh. I think Las Vegas is a night race. So I think some of the things happen after midnight in this country. And that makes the dates look a bit weird.
Oh. Yes, so...
Because in the US it happens on the 22nd, I think, which is 3 weeks.
So, track time. Practice is on the 21st, which up until like 11 p.m, which is the Thursday. When we watch it, that's 6 a.m. on the 22nd. That's weird. It's because it's a night race that's far enough away to actually
be very confusing.
Well, it's not far enough away. It's the other direction. Because normally night races are Bahrain, Singapore, and that's all to the east of us. This one's to the west of us.
Yeah.
As the sun goes round.
I mean, you know me well enough. I find this stuff endlessly confusing. I'll just look at the thing and decide when to watch it.
I mean,
you kind of go 8 hours
now.
in front, 4 hours behind. I'm just like,
Makes it worse now that the clocks went back.
Yeah.
I only noticed because my car's got a manually set clock and it was wrong.
Yeah.
And everything else in my life is now switched automatically because we live in the information age.
Yeah, you see, I'm old enough to remember when that didn't happen.
I am. I think I am as well. I've had manual alarm clocks and stuff I had to change.
Yeah.
But computers and phones or whatever.
So yeah, we've got Brazil coming up.
Brazil's fun.
Yeah, it's proper pressure cooker. You've got really close, really packed
it's a proper
stadiums.
track. It's twisty and it's
old and it's got history.
Yeah, it's not like these Herman Tilke 38 feet wide straights. It's difficult.
Yeah, and also bizarrely, they've kind of taken Lewis Hamilton to their hearts, haven't they?
Yeah, they kind of adopted him. I think he might have honorary citizenship or something.
Yeah, I know he wears a Senna kind of copy helmet, and they kind of don't hate him for that.
He used to, yeah. They've given him Senna's race-worn helmet. He's actually going to drive one of Senna's McLarens on the track.
Oh my god!
which must be
What, at Brazil?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be unbelievable, really.
Yeah. That's also quite weird that he's in a historic McLaren.
I mean, it's McLaren Mercedes.
Yeah, he was
Also,
a McLaren driver for years. So.
Yeah, it's Hamilton. They must kind of, remember.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Actually, that's a really easy one to watch and watch qualifying. Everything's at a reasonable time in Brazil when you're over here.
Yeah, I mean 6 p.m. qualifying, 5 p.m. race, pretty much perfect. Early in the morning for Vegas, which is a bit annoying, but what can you do?
Well, you can watch it because it's like I say, we're getting down to the sharp end of everything here, really, aren't we?
Yeah, and then I think I've already gone over them, but Qatar is quite a normal time, and then Abu Dhabi is like midday again.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, we could have actually done like a 3-hour podcast on what everybody said about the Norris Verstappen incident.
Yeah, but I think the fact that Verstappen didn't say the penalty's ridiculous or fight it at all.
Yeah.
He knew it was wrong, which almost makes it worse.
He kind of said, oh, no, that's fine, because he knew it was on radio and everybody could listen. Then he said, it's silly.
Yeah.
But that's like in the cockpit, so that's when he's all properly hyped up.
But I think, so, Russell, they told him he's got a 20-second penalty, because obviously he was kind of racing Verstappen. And Russell just said, wow. Russell's also the head of the GPDA, which is their union.
Yep.
He said later on, 19 out of 20 drivers are agreeing on driving standards changes, and like updating the rules. 19 of the 20 drivers are agreeing on them.
Yeah, I wonder who the holdout is.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
I mean,
it could be Alonso, to be fair.
I find actually Brazil's going to be fascinating because Max has been uncompromising. He's been like, this is the way I drive. I don't see why I should change, but it's obviously not working.
Yeah.
I also think what's really interesting is this only ever happens when somebody is near his car in terms of performance. I mean, a lot of his wins and championships were won by qualifying on pole. Almost in the first handful of laps, he'd break the DRS. He would head off into the distance. He'd maintain the gap at around 15 to 20 seconds and win.
Yeah. But when like in 2021, when the performance is close, he has to push.
And then he gets super aggressive. And I mean, I don't even know how many accidents there were in 2021. I can think of probably at least 3 fairly nasty ones.
Well, there was that Imola one where they bumped over the curb. Obviously, Great Britain. There was Italy, the over the top. There was, oh god, there was another one. Like there was a whole weird Saudi thing, wasn't there? Where they were kind of like swapping DRS and stuff.
Yeah.
Also, I'm just looking at the 2021 season. The last, what is that, 7 races? 6 races. They both finished first and second.
Yeah.
7,
so yeah,
8.
that's what really happens.
Wow. Yeah, it's like 14 races out of 22. They finished first and second in that season.
And that's when it all gets very dirty. Oh, apparently... the paperwork, because they had a thing about the penalties, and Christian Horner produced paperwork to show that Norris was braking later than he was on his fastest lap.
Yeah.
And other people have seen that and said it's actually the other way around.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of funny that Max in Austin rolled off the brakes and steamed in and pushed Norris wide, and then Christian Horner was like, oh yeah, that's just fair enough, he overtook off the track, you can't do that. And Norris does the same thing back, and he's producing graphs and going, "Oh, you're not allowed to do that."
Yeah, it's classic Christian Horner.
Yeah.
That's just how they operate. But I think we do have to kind of wrap it up now.
Yeah, I'll just say one very quick thing. Interview with Lewis Hamilton, who was obviously back in, I think, 4th or 5th when it happened.
Yeah.
And he said, "I've not seen it. I could see a group of cars ahead and I saw a plume of smoke, of dust. And I knew it was him. I knew it must have been him. I was like, for sure, that's him." So basically driving along, he just sees a big plume of dust come up, presumably as they're cutting across the grass and stuff, and he goes, "Oh, Max Verstappen's after it again."
Yeah, I mean, he knows firsthand, doesn't he?
Yeah. He says, "I've raced a lot of drivers in my 28 years of racing. I've come across a lot of characters. There are a few that are over the limit. The rules don't apply. He's over the limit for sure. I've avoided collision on so many occasions with the guy. I don't mind being the one who does that because you get to live another day."
Yep.
Which, yeah, it's 28 years. And
yeah, and he's one of the ones. He's probably also talking about like Alonso, if you think about it, which is quite funny.
Yeah. Anyway, you're right. We have been rambling. I've been Graham Miller. I also write thriller books under Graham H. Miller. I'm all over the search engines. Most of our listeners come from Toby's official Toby YouTube channel. Go and check that out as well. And we'll be back, I would say next week, but actually we've got a 3-week break, so we'll see how Brazil goes. Thank you for listening.
Take a break after that, but yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.